What's up, everybody? My name is Shannon and I am still waiting for my Satyr, and today we are talking about The Last Laugh by Mindy McGinnis. So this is the second part of the duology. The first part was the initial insult, which I did actually really like. Initial insult. It had its quirks. It was a little bit weird, but ultimately I loved the story between Tress and Felicity. I loved seeing their flashbacks. The Poe reimaginings were pretty interesting. I liked the way most of them were utilized. And when I recorded that video, I was like an hour or two into The Last Laugh. If you watch that video, you can see in my eyes that I'm like, I'm not sure if I like where this is going. And I'm here to say that I did not, in fact, like where it was going. I wouldn't say The Last Laugh is necessarily bad. I do think it was an interesting, like, wrap up to the story that was brought forth with the initial insult. Do I think it was needed at all? No. I liked the ending. I will say, the ending was good. Did I like getting there? Not really. So, if you've read the first book, if you haven't read the first book, I'm so sorry. I don't know why you're watching this video, but Felicity dies. She gets, bricked up into the wall. At the end of the day, it was technically an accident because by then Tress was like, I don't want her to actually die, but by then it was too late. So, the story is told from Tress's perspective and Ribbit's perspective. So now we're really getting into the fall of the House of Usher. And I didn't mind Ribbit in the first book. I mean, you don't get to see like a ton of him. He's kind of like the butt of like every single joke. He's the one who's starting the live stream. And in this story, he is a nice guy. He's a nice guy who wants what he thinks he deserves. And he thinks he deserved Felicity. And it just gave me the ick to the extreme. Granted, I do kind of think that's what Mindy McGinnis was going for, but it was to the point where I like physically just hated listening to his sections because they were just so not at all what I was wanting. And it didn't really help to go to Tress's perspective because Tress is dealing with the fallout of Felicity's story. Now we finally get into the Telltale Heart, which is so interesting, but her side of the story is mostly just a lot of like torture porn, which admittedly I'm not like opposed to. There is a really cool scene where they finally take the duct tape off of her arm and that was really gross. But there's not a ton going on with her story until like the very end, and suddenly all of the pieces fall into place and you get all of the answers to all of the questions. And I will say I did like that. I do like the note that the story ended off with. It does a trope that I am personally very fond of, which I'm not going to tell you because it is a spoiler for the book. But the other perspective, because in the first book it was by the Panther, which I didn't really necessarily care for. This time it's Rue the orangutan, which was just weird. Like it just like this book went from being quirky to just being kind of weird, and personally I don't think you need this book. I think she was doing something interesting, but it just ultimately doesn't sit that great with me. I was gonna give it a 2-star, and then I thought about the other 2-star books I've read this year, and I'm like, no, it wasn't that bad. However, I probably would reread Anatomy over rereading this book, which doesn't bode well for it, but I still think this book was better written. I just don't think it was for me. Ultimately, I am giving this book a C-. I think the initial insult was interesting. I think it was a fun story. I think The Last Laugh didn't necessarily need to be a thing. I'm sure there's people out there who are gonna love it. I could see it becoming like some kind of cult, like something or other, but ultimately, I'm just happy for Mindy McGinnis to go back to her angry girl books and less of this experimental weirdness. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to hit that like button down below, and don't forget to subscribe to Talk Books with me every week. That's everything I got for today, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!